What's up, football world? This is John Mitch here for our 8th episode of MITCH'S Picks. Today, I got my guest again, round 2, Mr. Mike Brown. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, how are we doing? Good to be back.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be a fun episode. Lots and lots to talk about. A lot of teams going into their off-season weeks. And then we got a couples, in the playoffs and competing for a Super Bowl game this weekend. It's gonna be an exciting weekend. I'm excited to see the games, and yeah. But first things first, we're going to talk about end of season thoughts on a couple teams, and we'll get into first team, our team, the Chicago Bears. And I want to know, you could start first. I want to know your thoughts on the season, the coaching, some of your favorite players and the performances, and just your overall thoughts, sir.
I mean, I don't know. The first 5 weeks feel like a Twilight Zone that never even happened. Like they had the coach with the investigations and teams playing like crap. Next thing you know, we got Chase Claypool running around being a clown.
Yep.
Just a nightmare of a situation. And then, I mean, pretty much since then, Montez Sweat pretty much was I would say probably the closest thing to somebody that's actually started a culture in this locker room since they've lost Roquan Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the change because I don't think there was any leadership or direction to this team before that. I don't think any of the coaches took the reins to that or, even tried to establish it. It just kind of seemed like chaos out there.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of everybody fighting for themselves to find a team, I guess, out of that hodgepodge of whatever they put together. And all of a sudden, I don't know, they just kind of clicked and everybody found themselves and Fields started to look good. They ended the season on a good note, and I don't know where you go from there. It's a massive question mark, but that's a different question.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It was a positive finish. Soft schedule, so I guess it's kind of expected. They should have kind of had more wins just because how soft their schedule was.
Yeah, I agree.
They played to their talents. I don't think they're any better than what they showed. Not yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me, I feel like the first half of the season, to your point, they were working the kinks out offensively and defensively. That Montez Sweat move, I think, did wonders for the defense. You saw his impact right away. And I was talking about this with a coworker the other day. Like, Montez Sweat is definitely an all-star player, but I think he contributes and has that value of making the people around him better.
Mm-hmm.
With the D-line, and the moment he got there, our D-line started producing more. More pressures, more sacks, not enough per se, for the stat book per se, but definitely you saw his impact in the run game immediately. And
yeah, for sure.
The pass rush, I mean, it was beyond from like the week he came in to the end of the season, completely two different defensive lines, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. You see the Rams, you saw that with Leonard Fournette with Aaron Donald. Name one thing you saw Leonard Floyd do with the Bears. You're like, that's why we took him top 10. Or was it like 11th or 9th, whenever we took him.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you put him on a defense where a defensive lineman commands 2 or 3 guys and you get to play solo on a tight end or a soft tackle every once in a while or running backs. And now all of a sudden you get to show what you can do.
Yep, agreed.
That's what Sweat allows you to do. And I saw a stat the other day. He's the first player to ever lead 2 teams in sacks in one season.
Yep, which is crazy, which is fucking nuts.
It shows how horrible our sacks were before we had him come into town. But
yep,
I mean, seriously, it just shows the impact that one guy can make on a team when you put the right guy in the right place and establish some actual, I don't know.
Yeah, for me, I think I would have loved to see the chemistry between him and whatever his name is, Nagako, however you pronounce his last name. He was hurt most of the second half. Most of the second half of the season. I would have loved to see how he would have been affected too with Sweat being on that line, and there's always next year to be excited for that. But I do feel like he just developed to the young guys like Javon Dexter. He was starting to have a more of a productive second half season than his first. Coming into the league, a lot of the analysts say yes, he's too slow off the ball, he's not fast enough. But with the pressure that he was getting, and as a rookie, it takes some time to adjust to the league, the speed, the strength of O-linemen and all that jazz. But he definitely was, I'd say, a person that I realized and noticed right away that he was becoming definitely more disruptive in the pass game specifically.
For sure, yeah.
As the second half of the season went on. And then, our linebackers, I arguably think they are a top 3 linebacker duo in the league. In my opinion, I think they are very good. Tremaine, I feel like if he had a better tackling efficiency and didn't miss too many tackles, he would have had a better season than he already had. But man, TJ Edwards, the cheap contract we got,
monster.
yeah, the cheap contract we got for him, Poles did well in that decision. And I love TJ, you know, obviously being a Wisconsin Badger too. With his boy Jack Sanborn, you know, I feel like the chemistry there in the linebacking locker room portion of the locker room, I think is very strong, and we're going to have a solid core for, you know, years to come. And then, man, our secondary, dude, 22 interceptions. Yeah, 22 interceptions this year as a team. I mean, fucking unbelievable.
This all goes back to Sweat though, because they got annihilated the first 5 weeks, and like I told you, I talked to you about this a while back. I remember I did a study to see how many teams that went to Super Bowls got to the quarterback and just how efficient they were. And almost every team that either wins one or goes to a Super Bowl has either a top 3 player, a top 5 overall defense getting to the quarterback. And the Packers defense, the year they won the Super Bowl, was atrocious in terms of yardage given up and everything else. But they got to the quarterback. Yep. That's when like Clay Matthews was going absolutely crazy. And what it allows your secondary to do is press, get up close on guys, and take a lot of risks, because the quarterback doesn't have that time to set his feet, make those throws, because he's got somebody in his face all the time. So you get these errant throws and everything else, and you guys that panic and they throw to routes that aren't open or too early, and all of a sudden you get these guys absolutely able to show out. They're not getting picked on because the route can't develop enough to exploit the fact that they're young. Or other issues that you can sit there and go at them for. And what you got to see every individual in that defense do, you started to remember names. You started to see who was where, because it wasn't just guys getting burned everywhere and dogged everywhere. Everybody had to show what they could do, and it was fun to see. And a lot of guys found their swagger this year, that confidence that I think you need to keep playing at that level in the NFL to know you can do what you do and have done your whole life.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like 2 players specifically, one being a rookie, one being a second-year guy, Kyler Gordon and Tyreek Stevenson.
Stevenson, unreal.
Yeah, and, you know, coming into the first, I think, like 6 weeks with Tyreek, most penalized corner in the league, most yards given up due to his PIs, because we knew this coming in through that, you know, the draft and analyzing and him.
You don't get the quarterback, you have to hold on to a guy longer in the route, and you start having all those problems happen.
Yeah, and he generally was deemed a very physical back rather than, you know, his speed, his height, you know, and
not a hip to hip.
No, not at all. Not at all. But I feel like from 6 on, I mean, productive. 2 pick games, 1 pick games, another 2 pick games. And I think right now it's not confirmed, but I think he might be on the all rookie team, because the second half, you know, he had absolutely. And then we talk about Kyler, you know, Mr. Spider-Man over here. I love watching him in the slot. It's my favorite thing in the world. He's got
to stop that Spider-Man flip.
Yeah,
those cleats are going to catch on the wrong turf, and it's not going to be pretty.
No, and
I love it, but he's got to stop it.
Agreed. But he had a really good second year, and I'm excited to see what he's doing in his third year. And and with like,
I love Brisker taking over. It's just watching all.
Yeah, we need Brisker to stay healthy and not be another version of Eddie Jackson 2.0. And with Eddie, I mean, you know, healthy-ish this year, but I don't know. Are we going to pay him? I don't know. We'll see. I bet.
Who's going to pay him though? That's where I think you can kind of hopefully you can sell that upside and sell the progress of what you're building, and hopefully get a guy to come back and be a Tyrann Mathieu. You're not searching for that massive contract, or searching for the right place to play.
And a report did come out with an interview with him saying he wants to be a Chicago Bear for the rest of his life. So
yeah. Just don't screw up those negotiations. Be smart. Don't sit there and try to show that he's some old dude. Play it wise.
Yeah, as we're talking about negotiations, I'm gonna move to our star, arguably, Mr. Jalen Johnson. I mean,
he's fantastic.
He is, but I think Pole's not getting a deal with him earlier in the season might cost us some more cap space in the long run.
Sure.
Now, and
get that money somewhere else.
He will, and sure. I hope we can make a deal with him.
You lose him, and all of a sudden you got to shuffle a bunch of guys up. You lose your slot guy or something, so now he's got to go to the outside or whatever it is, and your whole defense changes. All the progress you made, and he's a leader.
Yep, and I think when I think about that situation, if that were to happen, I think of the Steelers situation when we had Cam Sutton at slot. He was amazing for his first two years. Joe Hayden leaves and he retires, even though he was still a solid outside corner, just old, obviously. But you put Cam there for 2 years, and the first year struggled big time. Second year had a better year with just due to the amount of picks he had, and then obviously now he's on the Lions. But like, I don't want to shuffle. I want to keep him as another veteran, and especially in that secondary locker room, considering we're so young. And I hope we can make a deal that's not the highest paid corner in the league.
If you have to, though, do it.
Yeah.
Money. And my thing is, you look at those teams that have successful defenses, and usually you have one of the top at each position. One of your safeties is one of the best in the league. One of your corners is the best in the league. One of your linebackers, one of your linemen. They're all elite guys in the league. And the other thing, too, I think we learned from Roquan Smith, if you have a chance to pay an elite guy and keep him when he's this young, do it. Because you don't know if he turns out to sit there and go out and be a shutdown guy, put your guy on my island and see what happens, and he just starts shutting guys down because you didn't want to pay him, you're going to regret it. And then you can't sit there. If you're going to sit there and go forward to Fields and everything else and struggle, you need to make sure your defense shut guys down.
Yep, agreed. And so with that, I think we build the trenches, in my opinion, this offseason.
Old school Bears football. Get that defense up first. Get your run game back, and then go from there.
Yeah.
Browns made it work.
Yeah, they did. So with the NFC North future, I am pissed.
That's so painful.
I'm so pissed. Jordan Love is good.
So I know I have two theories. Okay, one is a hopeful theory. So one, he's just good. Okay, I think he's gonna have a lot of Dak tendencies. But
he had week 6 through 12. He had those tendencies.
Yes. So I think he's good. He can play under pressure. He can play in the pocket. He makes those throws. Everything else. He makes some mistakes where you're like, dude, what are you doing? My curiosity with him, and I'm standing behind this just as what I've said this whole year about the NFL. I think quarterback play and just teams in general, the amount of times defenses are on the field because quarterbacks are bad, everything else. There are so many guys that I think either weren't tested or basically just like him. I don't think he was fully tested throughout the year. He's done well in the playoffs and he's played well, but I mean, let's not act like the Cowboys are world beaters in the playoffs come along. And it's obviously I'm not trying to say it's like a jinx or a horror, like, oh, they're just not good because it's playoffs. Obviously they massively did not show up. And that's the version of the Cowboys they got. I think if they get the hot regular season Cowboys, they're losing that game by 14, 17 points.
Yeah.
And do they sit there and give him this monstrous contract they're talking about? And all of a sudden the NFL kind of rights itself and a lot of these first year and second year quarterbacks start coming into their own and these defenses and teams get better. And all of a sudden you find out that maybe you gave a Dak Prescott type guy a max contract thinking he'd be a Joe Burrow. Or are we all screwed and the Packers found their third guy in a row?
Right.
I think there's a really good possibility, though, where you're going to see a lot of guys that you saw play well this year regress next year when the NFL kind of rights itself again, because there was a lot of turnover in the NFL this year. Lots.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like, too, like a year of tapes watching with Jordan, like if you go back to Lamar's rookie year where he was absolutely insane, and then second year, he did fine, but defense were ready for his game, and he wasn't, I would say, as efficient and like superstar like his second year in the league. And then obviously, the teams are going to accept, okay, Lamar's Lamar, and then also Ravens adjusted for his game offensively to run the offense around him. And look at them now; they're competing for a Super Bowl.
Just what the Bears need to do with Justin Fields.
Okay, yeah, we're not there yet on that part of the show, but we're getting there. Getting there. Man. And then we looked at rest of the NFC. I mean, Lions, man, they're
I love the Lions. You can't enjoy the Lions. You are just an angry person.
I am very happy for them. I am. Dan Campbell is a hell of a coach. I think what I give a shit ton of credit for Ben Johnson. I love his offense. Uh, it reminds me of like the Bears in a way, just because they're very run heavy too, and they have two really good backs that set up, the PA and all that jazz. But then Goff has made his name there.
Their offense reminds me of like an MMA fighter. Like they do everything to just beat the crap out of you.
Literally.
They'll finesse you in the run game. They'll pound the run game down your throat.
Yep.
They'll do all the short passes and screen passes where all the linemen are getting out in front and beat the crap out of you. They'll hit you deep.
Yep.
And I don't think they do it all in a Pro Bowl fashion, but they do all of it at a pretty high level, which makes you dangerous because not many offenses can run every facet of that game. And I think between Montgomery and Gibbs, that run game can do anything. That run game into the short passing game can do anything because Montgomery can catch and he can play out of the backfield. He's 90s 2000s running back out of the backfield, but when you have a guy that's a pure runner and as powerful as he is, that's incredible to have that combo. Yep. And then you've got Gibbs that is the perfect hybrid running back for today's NFL. And then I mean, you have brilliant with getting Reynolds, a guy that just knows how to run his route and sit in spots, sit in zones. And then Amon-Ra and Laporta speak for themselves.
Yep. I'm interested to see what they do with Mr. Jameson Williams.
I was just going to say he's the wild card.
Yeah, like when they drafted him, I was not surprised, but because in college, like I wasn't wowed by him in college personally. Like he's on Alabama. Hello, you can come in. Huh? Yeah.
He belonged getting drafted by like the Panthers or the Raiders or like something like that, where it's just like, all right, go make some fun splash plays, but we'll probably never see you again.
Yeah.
I guess for how well they drafted and how well they tried to build this locker room, he just seemed like a very, I guess, just out of left field kind of.
Yeah, to your point, wild card.
Yeah.
When you look at the team on paper, you're like, what are they doing or what can they do with him? Because I feel like he's just their quote unquote deep threat, but I don't know.
I feel like you can pick that up anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Agency, you can get those. I'm not doing much than anything in the league right now, but you can get those Tavon Austin types, those little speedsters. Where it's like, hey, I just need you to be quick.
Yep, exactly.
And like Travis Benjamin had a job in the NFL for years just because he knew how to run straight very fast.
Yep,
and it's
true.
My God, Scantling. Valdez Scantling would be if he could catch a ball.
Facts. Agreed.
That's all you need.
Yeah, and then the Vikings, man, I don't know what they're gonna do with Mr. Kirk next year.
I think they knew this was coming, and I think they were really hoping to get at least an NFC Championship or two more out of this.
And
when they were re-signing him to save money, and they were giving him bonuses and all this big money just to save money, you knew this was going to come. And this roster turnover, like, what do? You take what you can get for Jefferson and just try to rebuild everything with Addison and go on from there. But it's not fantasy. You got to rebuild an entire roster. Like, how do you?
Yeah, I don't know, dude.
Are they going to be the 1990s Vikings before Culpepper and just have two awesome receivers and nobody get them the ball?
Yeah, right. I don't know. And then like our Bears, dude. I don't know. Well, I don't know.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, it is a fun one because we're bringing up the future of the offense and Mr. Justin Fields here in a bit. But let's move on to the playoffs. Man, it's been fun. It's been a good playoffs, I think, this year.
Awesome playoffs.
Yeah, close games, some blowouts, but really close games, very good games. Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl this year?
Ravens.
I agree, sir. I agree.
That defense is just mean.
It is mean, but their offense is coming alive now. And it doesn't matter if they run down your throat with a running back or lack of running backs or with Lamar. I mean, look at last game. He threw for 2 tutties, barely broke 175 yards passing, but had 136 on the ground with 2 rushing. Like, yeah,
it's the closest thing to Vic we've seen, and I think he's a better version. So I think he's got a better arm now.
Yeah, his arm's definitely
improved. Early Vic, I mean, obviously had the arm, but I mean, both kind of.
I don't know. I feel like the one thing about his game is his deep ball is not nailed down yet.
No, and Vic's was that deep ball was the most beautiful thing you ever saw. It didn't matter if you overthrew the guy. That's the spiral and the speed and just how easy he would just flick it. It was so fun to watch.
Yeah. But I feel like if he can nail down the deep, I think he's going to be insane for many years, as he already is, as we both know.
It would
But
probably be one of the most dangerous quarterbacks to ever play the game. I'm not saying he would be a goat. I'm just saying in terms of like a player and a skill set, he'd probably be the most dangerous thing we've ever seen.
Agreed. Yeah, I feel like they're going to win. Who do you think they're going to face, though? That's my thing.
Most likely Niners, but I think if there's a team that's going to have that anger to sit there and match that roster person by person and what they've built and how they've played in the last 2 or 3 drafts, they've built the depth to hang with teams like this. I think Lions make one hell of a game out of this.
Yeah,
they're a hell of a lot less dinged up. I think they're a lot deeper in terms of the positions you need to show out.
Yeah, and with like Debo too being banged up, I don't know. I mean, they can rely on McCaffrey all they want and Kittle. Yeah. I mean, Ayuk's good, but he has his either blow up games or his games where he does nothing. So
yeah. I think Niners go up 10-0. This game's gonna be done. They'll have trouble hanging playing in San Fran, but otherwise, I think it'll be a boxing match.
Yeah, I just don't want the Chiefs, bro. I don't want the Chiefs. I fucking hate Patty Mahomes personally.
It's a goat run for sure, though. It's incredible what he's done.
Yeah, it is.
Love him or hate him. I mean, he's already a top 10 all-time back. You can argue him in the top 5. You might even be able to argue him in the top 3.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, he is fucking crazy. I will say that. But that's another topic for another day. All I gotta say is, I don't think he is him without Andy Reid. That is my argument.
I mean, Brady never becomes Brady without Belichick. There's catalysts that start guys. Brady is never going to be the guy he is without Belichick. I'm not saying he's not good. You cannot tell me you're seeing 7 rings going into this guy's hand without that leadership and that everything that he was taught to be.
Yeah,
he bought into that system. The system didn't buy into him.
All I gotta say is, if Patrick Mahomes was drafted, for example, say by the Bears,
he would have been trash.
Exactly. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's just
what if a guy gets drafted to a different team and doesn't get cut block in the middle of the game, his knee doesn't get broken in half? All of a sudden, you got a career out of it, do it out of nowhere. It's
Yeah, you're right.
Sometimes the place you go, like, I mean, how many guys sit there and never even play basketball until they're a senior in high school? Next thing you know, you got Michael Jordan.
Yep, facts. I mean, that is true.
Crazy stuff happens.
That is true.
I don't know. I guess I won so much money off of Mahomes and Kelsey and Tyreek Hill. I feel bad against the Chiefs, so I'm just cool with it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I love the Ravens. I'm a huge Ravens fan from Ray Lewis and Ed Reed days, so I'm Ravens all day.
Yeah, as a Steelers guy, I mean, the thing is, I hated that team when those guys were like on that team. But for me, I think of the Ravens, I think of Lamar. And Lamar as someone I just can't really hate. He's a good leader. He's a class act. And then on top of that, he's one hell of a football player to watch. I just hate him beating on the Steelers. But hey, we're 2-0 versus the Ravens this year, so I can't really complain.
Which is crazy because Pickett is horrible. But that's the weird thing, though. So you don't mind the Ravens and you loathe the Ravens. Tell me, as a Bears fan, some weird way you don't hate this Packers team.
No, I do hate this Packers team.
Why? The players, though? Do you hate the players?
I hate Jordan Love with a grueling passion.
He's the nicest guy in the world, and it came out of nowhere. He sat behind the biggest a-hole in the world, nice and quiet, and he's still humble, still playing great, and just showing the world what he can do.
I don't.
I'm just saying it's weird. As a Bears fan, for the first time in my life, I'm like, not that I don't care. It's just like, I don't mind these guys. Like, their receiver room, like, they get rid of Rodgers, and now they got the best receiver room that they've had since probably Robert Brooks, Antonio Freeman, and those guys. Maybe, I guess, Jordy Nelson and Devontae Adams. They got 2 tight ends in the draft. They're both phenomenal.
Yeah.
They got very, very decent running backs. I don't think they know how to block properly for Dillon because he can't get up fast enough.
No, and Aaron's old, but.
But then, like, even the defense is great. And
young as hell.
It's stupid. I guess maybe I'm just getting to the point where I can't root against it. I can't put any more energy into being mad at how good they always are.
Yeah, my feeling with your Packers, like, whatever, is like me with the Lions. Like, I'm happy for them because they've sucked for so many years. But at the same time, though, like, it's kind of hard to hate the players. Like, David Montgomery, soft spot in my heart, for sure.
Yeah.
Amon-Ra, baller.
Gibbs, they're all good guys. They all just work at it.
Yeah, and then with Dan Campbell, too, as a head coach, kind of hard to hate.
Yeah, and I'm
them.
sure I'll start hating these guys, the longer they're good and everything else. But like, it's just
Yep.
one of those things where you just like you just kind of laugh. You're like, dude, again, and all of you are good now. Like Rodgers
Mm-hmm.
complains about having no receivers, and now they can't stop finding receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Bo Melton is a monster. I love Bo Melton.
Mm-hmm.
He shows up, plays well. He's very physical. He catches a great ball with contact.
He does.
And he's like their fifth or sixth receiver.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Yeah. It's nuts. And then like you have like Mr. Jaden Reed out of Michigan State. He could go for 30 points fantasy wise a week, or they're like, oh no, we're going to Romeo.
Yeah,
This week.
he's sitting up in the stands eating hot dogs this week.
Yeah. And then like I don't know with Christian Watson. I mean, I feel like he's a wild card because he's always injury.
I say trade him. Do what you can on him because you have enough everywhere else, and you don't have to worry about trading him because he's flashed.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to trade him big time money because he came out, especially in that class where everybody was showing out. He's going to want that money, and I think you're better off trading what you can trade for him. If you can get a second or a first out of him, and then put that contract elsewhere because you have the guys at receiver.
For sure.
I'm not saying he's not good, but I don't think you need the contract and the injury issues.
Yeah, I agree. All right, moving on. Off season again, part 2. We're talking about the draft here, primarily on the Bears and like the movement in the past 3 weeks. I wanted to get your opinion on Mr. Justin Fields on what we should do or what you would do as GM. Your Caleb Williams versus Fields opinions. Do you like the OC drafted or signed?
Love you.
Same. Huge fan. Love the pickup, and it makes me more confident that Justin will stay. But
he made a West Virginia quarterback relevant.
In what, year 6 of his career?
Like Geno Smith.
Yeah.
I remember he got drafted, and they're like, "You still want him to play quarterback?"
Mm-hmm.
And you turned him into a guy that threw for what he threw for last year. He didn't he outthrow Russell Wilson's records?
I think
most yards, right?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you got that out of Geno Smith, and now he's a confident quarterback that is still playing above average NFL quality. I guess behind center, and like he kind of faltered at the end of this year, but still to get what you got out of him, I'll take a shot at him.
Yeah, and then what and then he also had Russell Wilson in his prime.
Yeah,
and then he had Jared Goff at LA.
Yeah,
on that Super Bowl team. So
all suspects talent, and I guess maybe Jared Goff shedding that because he went 34-12 this year with like 30 or 400 yards or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Hell of a year.
Yeah, he did.
One wide receiver, one tight end, and running backs.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know. I'll talk first on my Caleb Williams and Justin Fields rant because that's all my Bears Twitter is nowadays. I've watched Caleb Williams tape. I've seen his college stats. I've seen interviews with him. I'll start with one thing. I don't like his leadership or character. I think he lacks that very, very much. I think he'd get eaten alive in Chicago if he was drafted. And also,
I agree.
And I also think it doesn't matter if you're a Heisman winner, top 10 talent, you should feel lucky and honored to any NFL team drafting you and being the position you are. I'm not saying that he doesn't have the right to, say like, oh, I'm getting drafted in top 10. I want this, and this, but like to say explicitly, I don't want to be drafted by these teams. And before he committed, if he's like, yeah, if I'm going to get drafted by these teams, I'm going to stay another year. And I'm like, and for me, that's like, bro, like you should feel lucky to even if the fucking say Patriots draft you, like,
yeah,
accept it. Be like, okay, like I'm in the NFL. This is fucking sick.
It took me years to warm back up to Eli. I loved Eli Manning in college, and when they pulled that shit at the draft, and all of a sudden they're like, I'm not playing for the Chargers, and all of a sudden they forced that trade, which worked out for everybody anyway. But still, it was almost like, really? Like, man, then obviously he took down the 18-0 Patriots and everything else, and he's kind of funny in it, I like it anyway.
Yeah,
I agree, and I guess my problem with him is to what you were saying. Your point with him not working in Chicago and handling it. That the game where he went up and cried in his mom's arms, it wasn't about running up and crying in his mom's arms. It's the fact that he lost probably the biggest hyped game of his year. And that was his reaction, which is okay. I'm not saying you shouldn't cry, dude. People take losses tough and everything else. I struggle to love it in football. Like when Derek Carr cries, I can't stand it.
Same.
Especially because it's like, dude, just stop. You just sound ridiculous. It's not war. But like, how are you going to handle failure in a city like New York, Chicago, one of those places, New
Yeah.
England, if you can't handle the loss of a slightly overpressured college game? Obviously,
Yeah.
you're younger and you're immature at that age, and you can't really handle those emotions as well. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't see you going on and handling that lack of success elsewhere if that happens. And,
Yep.
and and learning from it and building on it and becoming a better person from it instead of sinking and collapsing and kind of not being who you actually are.
Yep. And I feel like for one too is like I've watched his games where he's bitching out his receivers for X, Y, and Z, whatever reasons. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, dude, like, I don't know. I just feel like he's from what I can tell, and hopefully I'm wrong, but I can tell like I feel like he doesn't take credit for when he is wrong or like if
Oh,
it's
yeah,
like in a game and stuff,
that will
which is
sink your ship as a quarterback so fast. Could you
yeah.
imagine him walking up to DJ Moore year one and yelling at him?
No, oh yeah. DJ
And
Moore
then
would laugh in his
some
face.
dumb announcer going, "Look at the leadership, and he's taking control." And it's like, oh no, he's pissing off your entire wide receiver room right now.
Right.
I don't care
And
what you're trying to freaking spin this into.
I feel like he has tendencies that everyone shits on Justin for is
Mhm.
holds the ball too long.
We have no idea the quarterback Justin Fields is yet. I think it's a
No, we
handicapped
don't.
version of what he's going to be because I think you've handicapped his growth with what you've put around him in his first few years. So I
Mm-hmm.
think the version of him that we're going to see is going to be an altered version of what it would have been if you gave him actual, just competent coaches in any fashion over the first 3
Agreed.
years. But I just tell me one thing they did in his favor over the last 3 years that any other team would have looked at and go, you know what, that's enough to sit there and let us get a good shot at what he's going to be. They didn't do anything close to enough.
No, except
You saw it this year with Badgett.
yeah.
They put Fields in, stay in the pocket. They put Badgett in, they had him rolling everywhere.
I'm
What
like,
are you
what is?
doing?
I'm like, what is this?
He
Yeah,
threw for
like
8 billion yards in college, and you have him rolling out, and you have a guy that's even Lamar Jackson says might be one of the fastest quarterbacks in the league.
mm-hmm.
Other guys are saying he is the fastest guy in the league, and you're
Mm-hmm.
telling me you want him in the pocket? Develop that elsewhere, or develop it throughout the game a little bit here and there, but get the guy moving and learning how to throw on the run more. Make
Yep.
him comfortable with it so he's not just running.
And adjust your offense for the player he is.
Yes. Which you've noticed teams that have mobile first quarterbacks or mobile strong quarterbacks, they do that. And you do have hiccups here and there. You have some defensive coordinators that can obliterate
Mm-hmm.
you sometimes, but usually you can game plan around that again. And they tend to have success when you do it for the player.
Yeah, like the Ravens or someone who's competing for a Super Bowl this year. But
Yeah.
it's yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
who's their backup? Their backup quarterback.
Tyler
It's not
Huntley.
some skinny little white dude that can't run anywhere. It's a
Nope.
guy, and he could run.
Yes.
He's the same player type.
Yep.
And it's I don't care if it's Josh Allen behind him because Josh Allen can run. Like
Yeah.
you need a guy that has somewhat of a skill set that is similar to your quarterback in front of you. If you're going to build that entire offense around a certain guy,
Mm-hmm.
you can't all of a sudden put Peyton Manning's ability and agility, or not ability, but you can't put his agility and mobility behind a guy like Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, that offense is going to be built for a guy with that skill set.
Yep.
And it's like when the Bears did it's you watch teams that do this, and it's the most infuriating thing because then all of a sudden you lose that main guy, and now the whole offense has to learn a different way to play football.
Yep. And I feel like too, it's like, man. I mean, I feel like the one good thing this year, and I feel like for me, this was Justin Fields' first year at quarterback in my brain. Bro, you give him one actual real receiver. He has 1,300, almost 1,400 receiving yards, 8 tutties, and he's a top 10 wide receiver.
Yep.
With our shit offense.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine what he would have done if from the get-go if he had help.
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing our offense failed to do this year, and this bothers me to even say because I cannot stand Notre Dame, and I'm sorry to say that, but they did nothing to consistently integrate Cole Kmet into that offense. As much as I do not like that school that he comes from,
He's a
the tight
baller.
ends that come from that place, he is the perfect tight end for today's NFL. I'm not saying he's not running that 4.45 speed. He's not Isaiah Likely running around out there. but he checks off every single box, and he's getting better at every single box as well. And he's going to age well. He's very young, and they did nothing to consistently integrate him into that offense. When you see Cole Kmet play well, the Bears do well.
Very
Every
much so.
single time.
Yep, agreed.
It's
agreed, and that's just a fail on Getsy. I mean, as we both know, we've talked about before.
He's already getting interviews. What
yeah,
sitting there as a GM and saying,
probably Steelers. Honestly, probably Steelers are interviewing him. That sounds right. That sounds right.
We got this guy Kenny Pickett. See what you can do with him.
Yeah, he only could throw 15 yards anyway, so it's fine.
Real quick, I forgot to say this before when you were talking about it because you mentioned Joe Hayden. I loved him out of Florida. Is there maybe not a more underrated cornerback in the history of football? The guy sat there and played for Cleveland and then for the Steelers. Probably the two roughest teams in the roughest division for a whole career.
Mm-hmm.
And played like an absolute just monster of a man.
Yes, he
during
did.
that time.
Yeah, he had a phenomenal career. I loved him when he was on the Steelers. He was a very, very good vet for Cam and all the guys. A lot of those dudes are actually not even on our team anymore, which is kind of funny to say. But
anyway, sorry, back to Bears.
Yeah, Bears. And like to go back to Caleb Williams train, it's like he doesn't impress me. I don't look at his game and I go,
it only makes sense to trade the pick. The only thing that makes sense. There's no other option.
Okay, so what? Nothing. So you're saying trading back to what? To the 2 or third?
It's not the exact where, because that has to be figured out with the value that comes at you.
If we do not draft Marvin Harrison Jr., I am going to be livid.
I don't disagree. But so what did they get for DJ Moore for the first overall pick last year?
DJ Moore first last year, first this year, second.
So you got 2 firsts and you got DJ Moore.
Yep.
And that was for that draft class. Before you knew what CJ Stroud was.
Yeah.
That was for Bryce Young. 3 foot tall Bryce Young. Okay. You're still trying to find his pot of gold. Okay. And that's what you got for Bryce freaking Young.
Mm-hmm.
Now for Caleb Williams and the hype that he is, you're getting 3 firsts for this pick.
Yeah.
You're going to from somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you can move back a couple spots, only get 2 firsts, I'm okay with that because then that locks up Marvin Harrison Jr. But I'm assuming if you're only getting 2 picks, that means you're probably going to get a player that you can probably use somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Most likely. If not that, you're going to get some other picks in the future, some seconds or something else, which again is fantastic. Now you're taking Justin Fields. Are you giving Justin Fields that Jordan Love contract? Or are you going to give him a Daniel Jones contract?
Daniel Jones, 100%.
So now you've got a mid-level quarterback contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've got all these picks, which means that you get anywhere from 3 to 5 picks, all on rookie contracts for 4 to 5 years. Yeah. That does more for your salary cap.
Yeah.
And what is a new quarterback for the atmosphere that they have built, for the chemistry, everything that this team has built? What is a new quarterback right now going to do to this team? Nothing.
No, if anything, it's going to reset a lot of chemistries, even offensively. Yeah.
Same crap, different day.
Yep.
And that's all that's going to happen.
Yep.
And then what if he ends up playing out and being decent? Then all of a sudden you pay this guy this massive contract, and now you're trying to sit there, take all these other guys you built, and you got to give them their next contracts, and you're probably losing half of them.
Agreed.
And I think if you haven't fully seen what you've done in Fields, build the rest of the team. Build your monstrous defense we were talking about. Build one hell of a running game. Build your offensive line. Build the depth at receiver and tight end, and make it so the quarterback is the least of your problems because everybody else is just that steady.
Yep. Agreed. And I think
this draft is made for that.
Big time. And it's also made for, I mean, I will say like the wide receivers are definitely heavy as the strongest, I say, position in this draft class for sure coming out. But then like, it's not a massive, edge rush. It's not a massive D line, but there are some gems that you will be able to find in that regard to build those trenches. But again, I'd say the second strongest would probably be O-line.
Yeah.
And we need a line, so why not? Yeah, my perfect draft is trade back to either. If I was getting really fucky, I would say second and then trade back to third too. But we all know that's not going to happen. So I'd say my perfect draft is 1 to 3, get 2 first rounds, maybe a second, a third, and a fourth future.
Yep.
Draft Marvin Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
You use our 9th for, I know you hate Notre Dame, but a Joey Alt or another line or another offensive lineman, and then for the rest of the draft,
the offensive lineman's mean, go nuts.
And I feel like they will because they did a very good job in Mr. Wright this year.
He's an animal.
He is,
Oh,
and it's
an
so funny
absolute
too
animal.
because when you look at his face, you're like, oh, he's a fucking teddy bear. He looks like a teddy
Mm-hmm.
bear, but he's a
Yep.
fucking beast on that
Yeah.
field.
All right. So
And
here's my only devil's advocate to your perfect draft.
mhm,
We have a guy that can barely throw to Moore and Komet. Are
mhm.
you better off trading that third pick once you get it for a team that's going crazy for Marvin Harrison? Because can you actually utilize him for what he's going to be? That's my only question.
So what would you rather get? What a
My point is the value you can get out of that pick, is that worth more to your team than what you'll actually get out of him if he's stuck behind DJ Moore, the run game, and partially Cole Kmet and some of these targets? Because I don't know if Fields is going to have that expansive route tree to be thrown to.
I think he can though.
Can, yes. And
But
but the thing is, are you playing Madden in your head? Are you playing fantasy in your head? Or are you trying to build a team that actually functions properly? That's my only curiosity, right?
mhm.
And it's just,
Um,
and I guess, can you get more? Like, let's say you trade that down and you get back a few more spots, and now you get an edge rusher instead. And then you get your edge rusher, offensive lineman, and now you've got an actual strong, powerful, functioning team. And you
mhm.
can go get a wide receiver that can play number 2 anywhere, because now you've got 26, 27-year-old DJ Moore to rock the house for the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, I'd
It's
say
frustrating, but
I give you I'll give you my answer. I definitely feel it's more. I'd say it's the more Madden in my brain rather than fantasy talking.
yeah,
Um, just thinking about perfect rosters, and what I know Marvin can do for a team. Um, but I also think like the connection with them being both Buckeyes, DJ Moore and Marvin Harrison's friendship off the field going back to high school.
yeah,
Like, I feel like that chemistry of those three will be off the charts. And I feel like if the new OC, what's his name? I don't know how to pronounce it, like Walden, right?
yeah,
I feel like if he can take stars like DK, who DK being a hothead also in the locker room, and a player who is speedy and a different type of player like Lockett,
yeah,
I feel like, and DJ Moore, I wouldn't say he's speedy. He's like a combo. He's strong as shit, can run the deep, but also he's an elite route runner. So it's like
yeah,
he's the perfect. I don't know. He's like the
yeah.
perfect guy for Fields. But like
I
with
guess my only thing
Marvin,
that really hurts that is, I guess Geno Smith sets up as a guy that can spread the ball around more. If you have
yeah,
a guy
because
like if you have a guy like Justin Fields or Lamar Jackson, where they hit their legs sooner, you don't get to that third and fourth check down all the time.
yeah,
You're taking off running. But
yep,
the only outlier to what I was saying that I think maybe more fits your argument is, I think Tua Tagovailoa is absolute trash. And I think if you put that much speed and athleticism around him and you make something out of him, then what you're saying with Marvin Harrison, even if it is a little Madden-ish or fantasy-ish, does actually make that team better, because how good do you have to be to sit there and just sling it to two guys that are that ridiculous?
yeah, and I think for me it's like my brain wanting another wide receiver just to see what Justin can do, and like it's like, all right, we draft MHJ, we get our linemen. Okay, our O line's looking better and it's more consistent. Can hold say for another half a second rather than that 2.8 seconds that they're kind of holding right now for Justin over his past 2 years. Before pressure, it's like I want, but then I think about your point now. It's like, do you build the trenches in your first two picks?
Yeah, and I guess my thing is, you can, like, and football works inside out. I don't care how much people love the flashiness. Your offensive line and your defensive tackles and your edge rushers, they make everything flow for everybody. You don't have an offensive line, you don't have a passing game. You don't have an offensive line, you don't have a run game. If you don't have a defensive line, you have guys that are getting double teamed second level. All of a sudden,
Mm-hmm.
you have cornerbacks left on islands because you're not getting to the quarterback, and it's all affected by those guys up front.
Yeah.
And I think I like what the Bears have up front, so I'm not saying it's like, oh my God, you have to get this addressed. In the amount of money
Mm-hmm.
they have, you can sign a lot of these problems in free agency too, with guys that are more guaranteed to know that they're going to fit in these pieces maybe a little better. But at the same time, I mean, but maybe having Marvin Harrison on that first rookie contract for 4 years is better than signing some free agent for 3 years, probably for more money, if not the same.
Yep.
And then you get a chance of Marvin Harrison loving being there, being with a Ohio State Buckeye, and all of a sudden you've got a guy. Maybe you've got this, Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne type thing, where they just, no, we're the duo. We want to play together for a while.
Yep. Yeah. So I don't know, but like then if we think about other wideouts that will probably go outside the top 10, I mean, Neighbors could.
Yeah, but is that what you want?
No,
As a player type
I don't like. No, for
for
me,
the
I think.
Bears? I love
Yeah,
Neighbors,
yeah.
but for the Bears, do you want that
No,
player type?
no, I don't think he was a Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase standout.
No, I agree.
Like they were at LSU. I think he was good, but I feel like a lot of their offensive route running trees and plays were designed for him to be
Mhm.
that number one go to guy.
Yeah,
And then he broke their fucking receiving
yeah,
record for LSU. So
yeah.
that's how
No,
that's how
yeah,
I that's how I feel about it.
yeah. But at the same time, I mean, I don't really fully know how great Jaden Daniels is going to be, and maybe it's something where he just tunnel visioned him all the time. I mean,
Hmm.
because I don't know. I remember Jamar Chase was the obvious choice for his draft class, but I remember Odell Beckham's draft class. I turned to my buddies. I'm like, he's the best receiver in this draft class, and they all laughed at me. And then
Hmm.
Justin Jefferson's draft class came up. I'm like, he's the best receiver in this draft class. Not even close.
Hmm.
And the same thing. LSU makes those guys where you just look at them: Jamar Chase, Jefferson, Odell Beckham. If you take away Odell Beckham's knees, he's better than all these guys. He was
Yeah,
unreal.
yeah, he was.
And you just look at these guys and you watch them play and you go, they are different. And
Hmm.
Neighbors he's ridiculous, but I I don't see him as that monster that those guys were, where it was like they're just dangerous with the ball. They're
Yeah,
just dangerous on the field.
I agree. So we'll see. I mean, I'm excited. I'm counting down the days. I've already done like 25 mock drafts, on the websites and shit.
Uh,
And I I'm curious what Poles is going to do, and I just hope it's a combination
I
of
trust him.
what I do too. I do like him. I just hope he doesn't take Caleb. To be honest,
I agree. I just don't get the point of all this if you're gonna get rid of Fields. I don't get the point of any of it.
for the past
If
25
you're getting rid of
years,
Fields, you should have gotten rid of Eberflus. You should have reset the entire
yep.
mindset of that locker room because it's.
and and if he were to reset, it's been the constant thing for the past 25 years of the Bears organization.
I agree.
Like,
You need to put the pieces around this kid to see what you put your faith into in the first place.
yeah, I mean,
And
the players love him.
yeah, I agree. And this
If,
team is young enough. If you fail next year, I don't think there's much harm done.
yeah,
I think
agreed.
you can easily sit there and whatever you trade this year, you can most likely trade next year to get up there and get another top quarterback.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I don't see there being much of a difference between the guys this year and most quarterbacks that come out. If you like a guy, you like a guy, go for him. The amount of guys that fail, bust, and everything else, it's stupid the amount of first round quarterbacks that bust out. It's,
Who do you think the Bears could go after in trades in the offseason or maybe even during the draft? Who knows? Or a free agent signings that you think would be ideal for us?
I would love personally. I would love like a Mike Evans. If you can sit there and if you can get a guy like him, little
Hmm.
3-year contract at 30 years old, if he's not going to the Bucks, and you can get a big possession guy like him, that's just like you're throwing the ball to him, and he's going to put every single ounce of effort to make sure that ball goes in his hands or nobody's hands. That's a perfect kind of guy for Fields.
Agreed.
And then you have DJ Moore just able to take the top off everything, his slants, everything everywhere would be absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and I feel like I mean, if we don't go wide receiver and we go wide receiver in free agency, I feel like another stud will also help him not be double covered and shadowed all the time like he was because he was our only fucking threat.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. And then I would go after. I would love to see another running back come in because the amount of running backs that are hitting free agency right now is through the roof. So if you can get another guy to back up this, because I like Roshan Johnson for the hype that he could be, but everybody's like, oh, he sat behind Bijan, he sat behind Rajan. Miles Sanders sat behind Barkley, and everybody's like, wow, he sat behind Barkley. He's gonna be a ridiculous running back. What was Miles Sanders ever in terms of being that hyped? He never even
mm-hmm,
came close to the hype. And I love
mm-mm,
Roshan Johnson. I think he's got a fun run style and everything else. He runs mean, but that
mm.
style doesn't exactly translate in today's NFL all the time. And so if a guy
I
like
hate Herbert
him,
personally.
I don't like Herbert either. But the thing is, the offense, the way they run it, he works with the screen
Hmm.
passes. He runs that stuff well. He runs those little. I agree. I don't like him as a player either, but he works in that offense. When they play well and they gel, he has had really good games. 100
Yeah.
plus yards total offense,
Hmm.
rushing and receiving. So I think if you have him as your secondary guy, I just don't know if I trust Roshan as that bell cow. And I think there's so many guys that are coming up in this draft right now, the Antonio Gibson type guys, where it's like, no, we can
Hmm.
use a guy that's kind of that hybrid in between, and you can just have a nice little because I mean, Donta Foreman was fun this year for a few games, and just give me a little triple-headed, all right, whoever's hot or whoever fits the offensive plays in this series the best, we're putting you out there.
Yep, agreed.
Let the injuries pile up, and hopefully you can keep them all at $3 to $6 million a year type things. And that $6 million would be a lot, but if you can get around $3 to $4 million each guy a year, stack that backfield and make sure that that's not a problem. Like the Ravens always have a competent running back sitting there.
Yep, agreed. I feel like, yeah, big time. I feel like I like him, and it's so funny because we were talking about the fantasy league. I love Gabe Davis personally. I do like him a lot. I feel like he's not utilized enough and hasn't been the past 2 years.
I also felt the same thing about James Washington. He was one of my favorite receivers out there during that time.
Yeah.
Used right. Gerald Everett, one of the freakish tight ends that never got used properly.
Yeah, and I feel like, Gabe has been in the league for a minute, but I don't think he's old enough to say like, hey, I would sign him for a couple mil.
25, 26.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I do like him, and I do feel like he has that. He can do. He's a good route runner, but that deep threat is the good part about him because
I like him better over Mooney.
He's big. Oh my God, yeah.
Mooney's jump ball ability is low-key incredibly elite, but the rest is pretty average.
His physicals definitely hurt him though, with not being as big and
you don't need that out of it. Yeah, I agree. And he's one of those guys that he's better off as that fourth receiver that comes in that you kind of forget about.
Yep.
Also make some plays. I think he's going to be a Josh Reynolds type at best.
All right, I have a question. My buddy on Twitch a message. What about it? We would never get him because we won't pay him the money because we'd fucking break our sal cap. But T. Higgins.
Again, I think it goes back to the same thing with Marvin Harrison. For the money, I don't think you get the use out of him with what you have to throw to him right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first year or two of that contract at least would be a massive waste to your cap.
Yeah.
After that, if you develop Fields properly halfway through the season after this, I don't see him being a guy that's going to pepper two receivers, a tight end, have the proper run game, and also be the guy that scrambles the way he does, and efficiently use the number two receiver that you're going to have to competitively pay against everybody else because he's the highest sought after player.
Yeah.
I think to what you said about breaking the cap, I think you can break the cap if it has purpose. I don't think that cap breaking has a purpose for that team. Because you're not going to get you can't be paying him and DJ Moore and have a guy that hasn't thrown over 4,000 yards yet. That's just
I feel like if he was doing that, I feel like it'd be a no-brainer.
Yeah, I'd rather have two receiving backs that you're paying, above average high end running back money to, because you're going to sit there and just dink and dunk and beat the crap out of guys all day long because that would fit the offense a little better in the play styles. But I don't know. I don't see the reason for paying that. You already got Cole Kmet on a pretty decent contract. It's a fun contract, but it's a bigger contract for tight ends. You got DJ Moore. You're gonna have to sit there and pay a running back sooner or later because you're gonna have to find a running back with Justin Fields. Then you're gonna have to pay Justin Fields, and
dump him.
I think if you can get a guy, and that's why I think probably Mike Evans might not have been the best thought as well for that, because I don't think he's going to be coming in for anything cheap. But if he's a 2-year contract, then you don't have to guarantee much because it's most likely to be paid out, and then you can just ship him out next year.
Yep.
I don't know.
Last thing with the Bears, and we'll move on to the end of the show. But what do you think the Bears season's going to look like next year? Thoughts on Bears record? What's your high hopes and then your realistic hopes?
High hopes. They move all these picks properly. They keep Fields. You build a team around him properly, and you slowly grow them. And you can get them to be a wild card team because they have the talent. The talent's there in terms of players. I'm not saying the talent's there with Fields because that's kind of unknown right now. But I think with the talent you have in these players, it's roster-wise in terms of the talent, I think they're in the top 15 in the NFL in terms of just upside in youth. If you can build on that with one more draft class and very solid free agents at proper prices with the cap they have, best case scenario, you can turn this thing into a wild card team, second round team. But you have to turn Justin Fields into a average to above average passer / signal caller to do so. But you got to build it around him properly to do it as well, and you got to make this offense go with him properly. Now, the problem is that's a lot of checks you got to cross off to sit there and make this happen. So I think you go 8-9, 9-8 again next year, but you look more impressive in these games, and you don't have that first 6 week stuff again. I am very excited for the year after that.
I feel for me, I think we go 10-7. That's my number. I could be confident about.
I think so.
Because again, this year not as much as last year. Well, last year was like the 5-6 game range where we could have won all those games. This year, I think it was the 3. The Broncos,
Mm-hmm.
Detroit round 1, and then who was the third? It was the what game was it? I'm gonna lose my mind. I forget. But those 3.
Did they blow a Lions game?
Yeah, I named that. Yeah, it was Lions
Okay.
round 1. We faced them.
Yeah,
Round 2 we won, and then it was Lions in Denver, and then it was
Broncos. We beat Falcons. We beat.
Yeah, we did. I can't think of the third, which was definitely beatable, but turnovers in 2 drives fucking killed us and blew that game.
How soft that roster or that schedule was this year. The Bears could have won 12 games, and they would have been the worst 12 games winning team in the history of the NFL. That's how soft their schedule was.
Yeah. Next year isn't too hard.
No, I think it all depends on where the games line up.
Yeah.
But otherwise, their schedule next year is also very friendly, which is why I think 10-7 is very, very attainable. If you just but they have to progress on this roster. If it stalls out at all, mayday. Ship fields, get picks, build for the future, and just keep stacking that talent.
Yep. All right. Outro, little betting segment. Touchdown scored parlay. You can do. I'm gonna do a four leg. Just one from each team. Let's have some fun with it. I think I'll go Kelsey. Obviously, will score 1. Ravens, Lamar Rush. Detroit, I'm feeling Gibbs. Gibbs has been on a tear. And then Niners.
And there's 2 in the Niners.
I mean, McCaffrey, that's obvious, but I don't want to do McCaffrey.
Yeah.
I think Kittle's a pretty good one because he's been consistent too.
I like that one. I was going to go Ayuk just because I think that Debo's going to be a decoy in that game. I think you do a lot of motion with Debo. You do a lot of short slants and do a lot of little quick pump fakes, and you're going to have second level Ayuk everywhere running out, just destroying guys. I would go. I'll go Zay Flowers, Rashee Rice. I'll go Monty, and then let's see what's the other game. I'm just totally blanking right now. Niners.
Yeah.
I'll go with Ayuk.
All right. Those are all decent. And then my buddy in the chat goes Lamar, Travis, CMC, Laporta, also very viable, and that easily could happen too.
This is one of those teams, or this is all 4 of these teams. They've got touchdown hogs all over the place. I mean, Monty, Gibbs, Laporta, and Amon-Ra. I think Amon-Ra's touchdowns are probably a little low this year. His yardage and receptions, I think, kind of hit that because most of the leagues I had him in were all PPR, so he looked incredible. But I mean, every single one of these teams, outside of Andrew's injuries, Zay Flowers for a rookie said had great touchdown volume, and then McCaffrey obviously is McCaffrey. Kittle was streaky early, but he's been hot late.
Yep.
I think Ayuk's been up and down because he just kind of decides to disappear out of nowhere.
Yep.
And then Lions, I mean, yeah, we just stated the Lions, but Chiefs. But I think I don't know. Something tells me Ravens are going to sit there and because Kelsey feasted last game, and I think the Ravens are going to force Kansas City to win with their receivers.
Yep.
You have to.
Throw it to Scantling, bro. That's a good choice.
I agree. I would have a safety over the top of Kelsey all day and have that linebacker playing on him and just have them double up and just beat the absolute crap out of them all day. And if you got to sit there and get burned deep once or twice by Scantling, he's got to catch it. Yep. So I'll take that chance.
Yeah,
you got to take Travis Kelce out of that game
for sure. And then, I mean, money line, we already kind of went over, Ravens winning, and then toss up really with kind of Detroit and 49ers. I think I'm more excited for that game than the AFC one.
Yes. What's the spread on the Lions game?
Let me look.
4, 5?
Let me look.
I guess about 4.
It
So,
is.
wow, 7. I'm taking Lions against the spread in a heartbeat. Jeez, 7 points in a championship game.
Dude, Lions for me are on FanDuel. It's 7.5. Yeah.
Lions against us. That 7 point spread, the championship game. That's just, and Campbell's a very, very well prepared kind of guy, and the team he's built and the atmosphere he's got.
I don't.
They're
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think they come out flat by any means.
Oh, well, but they fight. How many times have you seen them down 10-0, 13-0? Next thing you know, it's 17-14, and it's a game.
Yep. Agreed.
So
Agreed.
I don't know. They fight. They're like watching Rocky in some of these games.
Facts.
They get the absolute crap beat out of them. Next thing you know, they're coming out with a win.
Yep.
So, I don't know.
Well, Mike,
it's gonna be a hell of a weekend.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good weekend, bro. Thank you for your time. Everyone watching on Spotify, Twitch, YouTube, everywhere you watch podcasts. Thank you for listening. Mike, thanks again, bro. Of course, love having you on. We're gonna be doing many of these probably in the off season, and definitely in the 2024 football season, man.
Yes, sir. Amen.
Yeah, bro. Have a good night. I will talk to you later, and everyone, stay safe and tell someone you love them. Peace, bro.